Hello, it's me, your favorite book reviewer, Julian Greystoke, and I'm back again with another book review that was requested by a patron. Yes, that's right. Over on Patreon, at a certain level, you can boss me around and request books for me to review. I can't guarantee 100% that I'll agree to anything that you suggest, but there's a good chance we can work something out. Anyway, this person asked me to review this book because they were interested in it and they were like, I don't know if it's good and I don't want to waste my time reading it if it's not. And I know that you, Julian, have very similar tastes to me, so would you read it and review it? Let me know if I would like it. Well, I'm here to help, friend. And unfortunately, I don't know if you'll like it. This is not going to be the most positive of reviews. The book that we are going to talk about today is called The Book of Doors, and I have seen it sort of floating around in the bookish zeitgeist a little bit, but I haven't actually looked into it until my patron requested it. Let's go ahead and read the blurb on Goodreads. I'll be looking down over here, so don't be alarmed that I'm suddenly staring off screen. This is a very long blurb as well. You know how I feel about long blurbs. I like a tight, concise blurb as much as possible. If you could open a door to anywhere, where would you go? In New York City, bookseller Cassie Andrews is living an unassuming life when she is given a gift by a favorite customer. It's a book, an unusual book, full of strange writing and mysterious drawings. And at the very front, there is a handwritten message to Cassie telling her that this is the Book of Doors and that any door is every door. What Cassie is about to discover is that the Book of Doors is a special book that bestows an extraordinary power to whoever possesses it. And soon, she and her best friend Izzy are exploring all that the Book of Doors can do, swept away from their quiet lives by the possibilities of traveling anywhere they want. But the Book of Doors is not the only magical book in the world. The other books that can do wondrous and dreadful things when wielded by dangerous and ruthless individuals who crave what Cassie now possesses. Suddenly, Cassie and Izzy are confronted by violence and danger. The only person who can help them, it seems, is Drummond Fox. He is a man fleeing his own demons, a man with his own secret library of magical books that he has hidden away in the shadows for safekeeping, because there is a nameless evil that is out there hunting them all, because some doors should never be opened. So, long blurb aside, that is a really tempting idea. These magical books that can do different things, and of course the Book of Doors, where every door can be any door. Such a cool idea. I was on board. Like, as soon as I read the blurb, I was like, okay, I'm actually probably going to like this. Then I started reading it, and I am going to be spoiling things here today. I will say that if you don't want spoiler and you just want to go check out this book yourself, one of its biggest crimes for me was that I found it incredibly boring. And I don't know how you make this concept boring, but this author found a way. So I fear that my review is going to be a little bit scattered today. I'm just doing this without notes. I'm just kind of going through, feeling out the vibes of what I thought about this book. I don't even know how long this review is going to be today. Because like I said, cardinal sin is that it was boring. I really struggled with this book to pick it up again. I would listen to a portion and then I would just find any excuse not to keep listening. I'd be like, oh, but I have to do this. Oh, I have to do that. I don't want to listen to it. I literally sent it back to my library, to the Libby app, like hours before it was due. That's how long it took me to get through this book, because it just was not holding my attention. And that is so weird because, again, this premise, how do you fuck that up? So we have our main character who is, as mentioned, a young woman who works in a bookstore in New York City. How does she afford to have an apartment in New York City while working at a bookstore? Well, she has a roommate, but that roommate works in like a jewelry store. So like two people with retail jobs affording an apartment in New York City. I don't know. It seems sus to me, but then again, I don't live in New York City. All I know about it is that it's hellishly expensive to live there. But they're besties, these two girls, they're besties, to the point where it gets a little bit homoerotic. Like, you kind of wonder if maybe they're girlfriends. And I would say that is like, oh, this author kind of understands how strong female friendships work? Like, if you're not mistaken for girlfriends, are you even besties? But also, and at the same time, the way that this author writes women is a little off. I don't know. This was a book written by a man starring 2 women, and I wonder about that choice. Because Drummond Fox, the character they meet later, the guy they meet later, is clearly the author's favorite. Sometimes you can just tell. And Drummond Fox is his favorite. Oh, Drummond, he's just so smart but troubled. He's got a library, he's bookish, and he's out to protect the books. He would never do any harm to them. He just wants to protect them and let people use them. And he has a sad, tragic backstory. But he's got a delicate, soft boy heart, like you can tell. He gets the most, like, actual characterization. And it's all sort of wish fulfillment, like sad boy, sad bookish boy wish fulfillment. So I cannot help but feel that he may be a little bit of like an author insert, like a wish fulfillment author insert character. I don't know. That's just the vibe I got. Vibes alone, all right? But so a big problem is that Cassie and Izzy don't get very strong personalities. Looking at it, I'm trying to think, like, what are their personalities? If I could pick personalities for them, and I don't. They're just people kind of pushed along by the plot. They don't make a lot of their own choices. The plot moves them places. The biggest choices that they make are at the beginning of the book, when the plot hands Cassie the Book of Doors, and she and Izzy, like, figure it out and go a few places that they want to. But very quickly, they are no longer in control of their lives, and they're just being swept along by the plot. And I couldn't give you personality traits for these women.
They do both just kind of fall back into the women character archetypes that you see the most often, which is that Izzy is the slightly chaotic, more confident one, and Cassie is the more reasonable, more sedate one who has to be hauled along by Izzy's, trajectory of chaos. But, like, we have seen these exact archetypes, and it's not even always women. We have seen these 2 archetypes a million times, and they never go beyond those archetypes.
Izzy eats a lot. We'll talk about that. I mean, we could talk about that right now, because like I said, this is a very scattered review. I'm just going to go wherever my brain takes me. Why the heck not? Let's talk about how this author writes women. This author is not quite guilty of the cringiest version of men writing women, but there's some stuff in here that still made me go, oh yes, this is written by a man. So like I said, Izzy's main personality trait is hungry, except for every time that she does eat, she has to bitch about how she shouldn't be. She'll be eating a cheeseburger and complaining about how it's gonna make her fat. And I'm like, stop it. I don't care if you want to have a female character whose main trait is hungry. Plenty of guy characters have gotten that trait and it's been fine. But those guy characters don't sit around thinking the entire time about how they shouldn't be eating the food. Just let Izzy eat the food, for crying out loud. And also, like, the girls do spend, like, when they're hanging out together and they're talking together about things, this book does pass the Bechdel test. They're not talking about a man, but they are talking about, like, oh, this food, I'm gonna get fat. Like, this author doesn't quite know what women talk about when they're together. So he took a guess, probably based off of movies he's seen. Also, we have to know that Cassie, like, Izzy likes to eat, but Cassie is thin. We have to know that Cassie is thin. We have an entire mirror sequence of her looking at herself in the mirror to describe herself. I thought we were done doing that, and especially professional authors were done doing that, but I guess not. And we have to know that she's skinny. If you're wondering if this book written by a man comes up with an excuse to describe her breasts, yes. They're small breasts, but that's because we have to know how skinny she is. It's not like all over the book, but it's enough that, like, you notice it. There's nothing hugely egregious, no one boobs boobily down the stairs, but you can just still tell. All right, anyway, that was my rant aside. This author does kind of in general have a preoccupation with food, though, and I wondered if he wrote hungry a lot. Because, like, aside from Izzy liking food, like, her personality is I like food, but then complaining because it's gonna make her fat, a lot of the other characters are also very preoccupied with food or beverages. Like, for whatever reason, Drummond Fox has a running thing where everywhere he goes, he asks if they have whiskey. And I don't understand what's going on with that. Like, he'll go to a coffee shop that is very obviously not a place that serves whiskey, and he'll ask for a whiskey. And I don't know what we're doing with that. Is it because Fox is Scottish and, like, everywhere in Scotland serves whiskey? Please, if you are Scottish, Please sound off in the comments. Like, is that a thing? Do you just get whiskey everywhere you go? Is that a like a Scottish stereotype? I don't know. But Drummond is Scottish, and he asks for whiskey everywhere he goes. And a lot of characters are preoccupied with food, and I just feel like maybe the author was hungry a lot when he wrote this book. Anyway, that was a whole separate rant. So there are a lot of characters in this book. I know I'm focusing on these three because they're the only ones that really matter. There's not one but two old men side characters who are father figures for Cassie. She's swimming in father figures and both of them die. I don't know what we're doing with that either. Like, Cassie just accumulates old men to be her father figures and then watches them die. And then there's two villains, and we don't need two villains. Two villains is too many villains, and they're both like finger-tenting evil villains. The less interesting of them is the guy, who is just evil for really no reason. Like, we find out later that he's like racist and sexist, but like in that kind of way that is very, very cartoonish, where he just all of a sudden in his evil monologue is like, yeah, I wish we could go back to the 50s or whatever, where women were kept in the kitchen, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, wow, you're awful. There's no redeeming qualities to this man. I thought maybe toward the end we were going to redeem him a little bit, but we didn't. And then there is the woman. That's her only name. She is the unnamed evil, like, mentioned on here. And she could have been so interesting. She was this close to being a really interesting character. The woman and this other evil guy, whose name I can't remember, are hunting for books. They want to collect books. And both of them have, like, evil books. They have, like, the Book of Pain, the Book of Despair, the Book of Torture. I don't know. They have, like, the bad books in their possession most of the time. And she is a actual psychopath. Like, she has absolutely no empathy. She's incapable of feeling it. She enjoys torture and harming people and using her books to, like, horribly kill people for her own amusement. She is the evilest of the evil ones because, like, she's got nothing else, like, going on. And we're in her point of view sometimes. She's got nothing else going on in her brain except for, like, manipulation and figuring out the best ways to hurt people for her own entertainment.
Trying to record this voiceover while ferrets are attacking my feet. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, I wanted to say that while I was first listening to this story, the woman, before I knew that she was, like, evil, she, like, went back to her home, her like super isolated house in the middle of the woods, and she was thinking about how much like she hated people and hated crowded trains. It wasn't so much she hated people, she hated crowds. She hated the crowds, she hated being in like bustling environments, being shoulder to shoulder with people. And I'm like, oh, okay, relatable. I too hate being around lots of people, and I too want to go back to my isolated house in the woods and kick off my shoes and just chill. But it turned out that was actually a sign that she was antisocial and evil, and that made me really disappointed because like I don't like the use of being introverted as like low-key a sign that someone is evil.
There's something so interesting there because she has the Book of Despair, and you can infer, which I think you're just supposed to infer, that the reason that she's like this is because of the Book of Despair. The Book of Despair removed all of her humanity, and this is what's left. Just this husk of a person who just goes around collecting books and killing people in imaginative but brutal ways. You know, animals too. She kills people, she kills animals. She has no empathy. She can feel no compassion. Psychopath. Full psychopath, all right? And they just don't really do anything with it. It's an explanation for why she's evil, but we never really go deeper than that. And I would have loved to go deeper with her instead of just... Both of these villains are just there to be so evil so that the good guys have someone to be up against. And then there's other characters who have books, who have had books. Sometimes we get their points of view, and I don't think most of them are necessary. They are kind of frustrating whenever we had to switch to their points of view. I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, they come up later, they make themselves useful in the climax, but at the same time, I'm like, Are they necessary? Are they really ultimately necessary? And most of all, why am I in their point of view? Like, they could still be characters, but I don't need to be in their point of view. Just let them exist for other characters to encounter. So obviously, back to the plot, Cassie and Izzy figure out the Book of Doors and they start going places. And this is where we start to run into, like, I would even call them plot holes. Like, the magic system is extremely soft, to the point where if you ask any questions about it, it will melt like damp tissue paper. It will dissolve. And that's I don't need the world's hardest magic system, but I also just want characters to be curious and maybe poke at it a little bit more, because that would make them more real. So Cassie and Izzy, they start going places. They figure out they can even go places that they haven't actually been. As long as you can like envision the door, you can go there. They never think of trying fictional doors. Never once. Just try it. Like, I would be trying to get to Narnia so fast, you know, if I could also get to fictional doors, as long as they have like a strong mental image of the door. They can travel through time using this, but they don't even think about trying to go to fictional lands. Like, it would be so easy. Like, that's one of the very first things I would think of. Like, okay, yeah, I could go to France and have a croissant. Well, why can't I go to Narnia? So, yeah, weird choice there to just not, like, all you'd have to do is have them think of it, try it, and be like, no, we can't go to fictional places. It has to be real.
As long as we're talking about holes in the magic system, which there are more. I have more questions about this magic system, but this is the other one that popped into my head just now, is who can use the books well or at all, and why? Not only are there these books, but they don't just like work universally for everybody. You almost have to like get good and practice with them, except for when you don't. Some people seem more inclined to be better at using certain books, but why and when? And you find out later a good reason why Cassie should be good at using every book, except she's not. She's really good at the Book of Doors, and a lot of other people can't use it, or at least would have to practice to be able to use it. But then like the Book of Illusions or the Book of Shadows, Cassie is not like inherently good at, even though she should be, seems to me. So it's like, maybe the author has reasons, but like on the page, I'm like, who's good at what? When and why do they need to practice? Whereas somebody else might just pick up the book and be awesome at it. Like, what is going on with these books? Like, do these books actually allow you to do these things? Or do they only allow you to do these things if you are a certain type of person or have the right personality trait or something?
But the time travel thing brings me to what this book is actually about. This is a time travel book, which is not at all expressed in the blurb, and I was very surprised to learn that it's a time travel book. And at one point, Cassie gets stuck in the past, 10 years in the past, and literally has to live the 10 years to get back to where she was. So like, there's just a whole bunch of other stuff with like time travel happening in this book. And again, the magic system is extremely soft, so like the time travel system is also extremely soft. It basically hand waves it away. And like, if you like time travel books that are more like logical and thoughtful, you're probably not gonna like this one. This one probably frustrate you. It doesn't matter because the plot always just works out where we never have to worry about any common time travel foibles. It just always works out. But Cassie has, her grandfather raised her, and then he died of cancer a few years ago. And so one of the things that she likes to do is go back in time and visit her grandfather, who basically like sacrificed his entire life and plans and goals to raise her. And so she goes back and gets to have a little bit more time with him and gets to be there when he dies, because she wasn't, when it happened the first time, conveniently, so she didn't have to run into herself. So that's her first father figure who dies. And then you remember the old man at the beginning of the book who gives her the Book of Doors? When she has to live out those 10 years, she lives with him. They become very good friends. And then he also dies of like an aneurysm or something in the bookstore. And again, OG Cassie, first timeline Cassie, is not there for it. She just encounters his dead body while he's holding the Book of Doors. And time traveler Cassie is there for it. And she's the one who like gives him the Book of Doors, I think, because she like finds it. There's a lot going on around like, where's the book? Who's got the book? When does the book get given to whom? Who facilitates that? I was not expecting this to be a time travel book. A lot of main themes in this are like self-fulfilling prophecies. So like, it turns out that Cassie was the one who gave herself the book, you know, that sort of thing, coming around to be like full circle. And then the book did one of the things that I like hate the most. There's a choice that I really did not like, is that we find out that Cassie is the creator of all the books. Because wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, she transports herself accidentally into some other dimension, some liminal space of magic. And while she's there, outside of time completely, she and her emotions created all of the books. All of the magic books were created by her, and I don't like that.
Also, when she's transported into this weird liminal space outside of time, the only reason that she survives it is because she has the Book of, like, Protection in her pocket, and the Book of Protection keeps her from being, like, torn apart by the magical forces of this liminal space, but, like, she's there creating all of the books, so she has one of the books that she has already created that is protecting her while she creates all of the books, including the one that she has in her pocket that's protecting her. Just like, I don't know, just, it's magic, it's a wizard did it, don't ask questions. Cassie is the wizard. So, like, the book that hasn't been created is also simultaneously being created and is protecting Cassie at the same time.
I liked Cassie as just a person who was encountering this fantastical thing and trying to deal with it, as well as dealing with the things in her own life, like the fact that her father figures keep freaking dying. But I did not need it to turn out to be that Cassie was the one who made all of the books. Why did we need that? Of all of the things that I wanted explanations for, where did the books come from was quite low on the list. I was very able to suspend my disbelief and go, yep, there are these magic books in the world that normies don't know about because a certain subset of very secretive people are like hoarding them. Like, I can suspend my disbelief for that. We have to suspend our disbelief all the time about magical worlds that exist outside of the knowledge of normies. So this one was fine. I didn't need to know where the books came from. I could just be like, they exist. But yes, Cassie does at one point get teleported outside of time into like a weird magic realm where she like floats in the blackness. And her emotions create all of the books. Her emotions, her thoughts, her dreams, all of that stuff. I don't know why she had to invent the Book of Pain, but whatever. The Book of Control, all of that. Because Cassie doesn't have a personality, it doesn't like, you don't go, oh, that's why that specific book exists, because Cassidy has such strong, like if there was a book of justice, we never see it in this story, but maybe there is. If there was a book of justice, we could be like, oh, it's because Cassie has such a strong sense of justice. Cassie is not really a person who despairs a lot, but she still created the Book of Despair. Cassie is not a person who likes to inflict pain or is in pain herself, but she creates the book of Pain. I don't know why she created the Book of Mist that one of the villains has and uses to like transport around via mist. Where did that come from Cassie? Like, the only reason to do this would be to flesh out Cassie even more as a character and make us be like, oh yes, because Cassie has always been this. That makes sense. The only one that makes sense is the Book of Doors, because Cassie really likes to travel and she can't anymore because she's too poor. So the Book of Doors makes sense. But the rest of them? Where? Why? Anyway, there's a lot of like time travel and the plot is slow. Like, one of the things I saw the most when I was looking at other people's reviews of this was the pacing. Somehow it manages to be like, there's a lot of stuff happening, but the plot is moving so slowly. It's like wading through molasses with this book. I'm just like, do I have to feel like I'm spending the entire 10 years with Cassie in the past? But eventually, a whole bunch of stuff happens. By the way, if you don't like fake out deaths, don't read this book. The only two people who stay dead are her father figures, because they like died of natural causes. Anybody who dies of like getting shot or any other cause of death, it's a fake out death. Like, maybe there's like one fake out death where I was like, okay, I'm okay with it. But do we need to keep doing that? There's also one character, he's like a big bodyguard type character. He's not really all that important, but he shows up later to be a potential love interest for Izzy. And his job is getting shot. He gets shot so much in this book, like it's almost comical how often this man gets shot. That's like his main purpose in this book is to get shot. Like you got one character who's just a bullet sponge in this book. Nobody else gets shot. It's just like bullets are attracted to him. Yeah, eventually it all ends up with this big showdown. They have a showdown with the guy villain. And then they send him into the past. Her like solution for him is to banish him to the past. But he's so determined that he lives back into the present and tries to fight them again, which is a thing that did not need to happen. And then they get rid of him again. And then the lady villain shows up and they have to deal with her. And I'm like, we could have cut the guy villain completely, just skip his parts and just have the woman be the main villain. And this book would have been shorter, tighter, and honestly more fun. And then we could have had some time to really explore the woman as a character and like really go in depth with like maybe some of her backstory. Like we do get some of her backstory where she and her parents all were affected by the Book of Despair, but her parents eventually died. I think she at least killed one of them and then one of them committed suicide. She like lived on. She was able to live through the Book of Despair and what it did to her, but it left her as a psychopath. So, like, that's really interesting, and I would love if we just went deeper into her character, but we don't. She's just evil, okay? She's just, all of that existed just to explain why she's so friggin' evil. And then we defeat her, and then the book is over, and Cassie is ostensibly attracted to Drummond, and Izzy is paired off with big bodyguard guy. Izzy and bodyguard guy had more chemistry than Cassie and Drummond, which is funny because Cassie and Drummond got to spend more time together, although not a lot. They don't spend a lot of on-page time together. I don't know why we even paired characters off, honestly, because it was so shallow. Like, if you're looking for a fairly romance-free book, this might be the one for you because, like, the romance, such as it was incredibly shallow. It was more just implied that these people were going to get together, like, eventually. Or we're just starting to date at the very end of the book. The thing about this book is that I think it's literary fiction, and I don't really like literary fiction because it does tend to be all about the vibes. And I need more than vibes. I need character, I need plot. Call me old-fashioned, but those things are very important to me in a book. But I can appreciate that other people do love a book that's just all vibes, and that's fine. However, my understanding was that one of the features of a literary fiction book would be beautiful writing. Would be that it was very lovely to read, like very evocative, very well written. And this wasn't that. This was not beautiful writing. This was very standard, like, there was nothing beautiful or evocative about it. I'll just keep saying the word beautiful over and over again, because it wasn't. I won't say it was, like, clunky, like sometimes it could be, but for the most part, it was just very painfully average writing, just on a craft level. So it wasn't even lovely prose for me to enjoy. So really, there was nothing in this book for me to truly enjoy. Like, I didn't like any of the characters. I wasn't excited to follow any of them. The plot was so slow. And the magic of these books was shallow and very soft. And I had questions that I thought the characters themselves would ask. And they just never did. Or they hand-waved it away. There's just so many things where it's like, huh? Drummond has the Book of Shadows, is one of the books that he has. And all you do is you tear a little bit of a page off, and then it lets you essentially step into the shadows, so you become invisible. And you can move through the shadows as long as you want. And then eventually you can, like, get rid of the pieces of the page, stop holding that, and you will come out of the shadows. And I was like, that's cool, because that's like a book with finite uses. Eventually you're going to tear up all of the pages. No, the pages regenerate. It would have been cooler, I think, if the book wasn't, like, something you could use forever. It would make it seem like there were stakes to using the Book of Shadows. Like, he might hesitate sometimes to use the Book of Shadows. Also, Drummond has the Book of Luck, but how lucky it is at any given time varies hugely. Sometimes it will make bullets miss this man. Somebody could be trying to shoot him point blank and the Book of Luck will make a bullet miss him. And sometimes, because the plot needs to happen, bad things do just happen to him. And I'm like, well, what about the Book of Luck? Like, the levels of usefulness that book has are very, very plot based and not what you feel like. I'm like, can we at least set up like what's a baseline? What does luck look like for this man so we know? What are the rules? What are the rules? Like it was luck that he ran into her at one point. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so small incidental luck. Cool. But then later, a bullet that should have hit him misses him because of the Book of Luck. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot bigger of a deal than just happening to be in the right place at the right time. And then there were lots of bad things that happened to Drummond where I'm like, why didn't the Book of Luck protect him? The magic is so wibbly-wobbly, and the time travel is so wibbly-wobbly, and everything is just vibes. The author is very proud of this idea that he came up with of all of these magical books, and that's really all that he cares about. I'm sorry to the patron who requested this. I know that you and I have fairly similar taste, so I'm guessing that you probably should just give this one a miss and not pick this book up. I will say one thing that I will say that we should probably not do if we are self-published and we're writing our own blurbs. This is traditionally published, so the author probably did not write this blurb. But if you're writing your own blurb, if you're writing a time travel book, which is what this book actually is, put that in the frickin' blurb. Because I was not expecting that. And I would have gone in with like a different attitude, honestly, if I'd have known it was a time travel book and not a story about a bunch of magical books. I mean, it was both, but there was a lot more time travel in this. I did not expect that the Book of Doors was going to be used primarily as a time travel device. It's not the Book of Doors, it's a time machine. Those were my thoughts. I hope they were helpful. As you guys may know, I am a developmental editor, so if you have written a book and you want somebody to look at it and make sure that everything is working, you can send it my way. All of my information is down in the doobly-doo. I work primarily on Fiverr, so contact me over there and we can chat. Don't feel bad if you want to just contact me and ask me some questions and then you don't end up going with me as your editor. That's perfectly fine. That's part of the process, is figuring out if you want to work with somebody or not. Also, I'm an author and I have written my own books, so you can find those down there in the doobly-doo. Also, if you'd like, you can support me over on Patreon and here with channel membership, where you get exclusive videos not seen here on the regular channel. So that's pretty cool, right? There's a lot of really fun stuff there already, so you'd have a nice backlog of things to watch that you've not seen here. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
I couldn't do this without you, Garrus.
Sure you could. Not as stylishly, of course.
You know who helps me do everything stylishly? My patrons. Patrons like Moon Island, Corey, Ashley, Bunny, Nemo the Sorcerer, Tactical Hot Dog, Haley History Nerd, Stephanie, Pixelizzy, Rhea, Christina, Cameron, Lady Kragan, Jose, Lunar Muse, AJ, Marshy, Semi-Dark, GK, Scout, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Tina, Black Nunga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Kat, 78 kilograms of shade, Ingrid, Roma, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Mufflier, Celia, Deborah, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Vampire Antihero, The Oracle of Shelfi, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, and Amanda. Thanks so much for always having my back, everybody.